Oh my goodness, everybody. We've got Jackson LaCombe locked in. That and more on this episode of Locked on Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked on Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome, everydayers. Thank you for making Locked on Anaheim Ducks your first listen every day, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Kyle Carr. I'm a lifelong Anaheim Ducks fan. I've spent multiple years covering collegiate sports, including college hockey. But here on Locked on Ducks, we're always talking about the Anaheim Ducks. And we've got some big news that broke yesterday. The signing of a young defenseman of the name Jackson LaCombe. I'll get into the amount of the contract and kind of looking at his numbers and all of that. But later in the show, we are going to get into some comparables to some other defensemen and then take a look at where Anaheim stands and kind of just how that defense is going to look now that LaCombe is locked up and what that means for the near future. So, looking at the signing yesterday that went down, which I found very, very surprising. I mean, after sitting here for how long waiting for Mason McTavish's contract to go through. We sat here, just waiting, talking about it all off season. Then the preseason starts, training camp starts, still no Mason McTavish. And then finally we get the news dropped on a Saturday. And at $6 million or 6 years, $7 million AAV for McTavish, you're thinking, okay, well, now we kind of know what the next round is going to look like for these guys coming up in RFAs. Pretty much talked about Jackson LaCombe being locked in, probably around 7 million AAV or something like that. But then the news finally comes out, and honestly, I didn't even think this was going to happen. I was taken completely by surprise. I just saw quickly, like I happened to go on Twitter as the video was posted announcing his contract signing, and then I saw Elliot Friedman's post, and it was like, all right, well, this is huge. This guy, Jackson LaCombe, signs an 8-year, $9 million AAV contract. And with that total amount makes Jackson LaCombe the highest paid Anaheim Duck player in franchise history. There have been other players in the past that have had a higher AAV, but this is the biggest amount in total dollars that an Anaheim Duck player has ever signed. And that's huge. I think that speaks volumes on just how confident Pat Verbeek and the Ducks head staff and everyone is on Jackson LaCombe. I know I saw rumblings this offseason when they announced the training camp for, or like the immersion camp or whatever they called it for the Olympics, and Jackson LaCombe was on there for the USA team, and a lot of people were freaking out about this. I saw a lot of kind of just, who is this guy? Why Jackson LaCombe? Why is Lane Hudson not here? Why this guy? And now you get the signing. You see this signing it's a big contract, 8-year, $9 million. That equates to around like $72 million right there total. And social media, if you're a Ducks fan or you have been watching the Pacific, I've noticed a lot of the Twitter reactions and social media reactions from Ducks fans, Pacific division fans, even fans of just the Central, anyone in the Western Conference that has been watching Jackson LaCombe or watched him when he was a Golden Gopher with Minnesota. You saw this breakout kid. He plays extremely well. His defense is so solid. And so this was a bit of a surprise after the McTavish dealings, but absolutely expect it. Like, he is well deserving of this contract. I think his play speaks for itself. But then the other side of social media of people that don't watch Pacific Division games, they don't watch Anaheim Ducks games, freaking out. Like, who is this guy? Who comes in? Jackson LaCombe, never heard of him. Why is this guy getting paid this much? What's happening? Why is this guy getting a record-breaking deal? What even are who is this guy and why is he paying? Like, it was just a lot of outrage, not really outrage, but just a lot of smack talk and kind of just some disrespect, and put some respect on his name, people. Come on, man. This is Jackson LaCombe we're talking about. He is going to be a staple of this Anaheim team. And now looking at that 8 years added on to his contracts, that takes him to 2034. This guy is locked up till 2034. That is a terrifying statement in itself, to say a player is locked up until 2034. Like, that blows my mind that we are already talking about the 2030s in regards to player contracts. That, talk about your back hurting and your knees aching with that number right there. But 2034, Jackson LaCombe locked up. He has a modified no trade clause or no move clause that the details weren't really shared, but that is in play. And I mean, let's look at the numbers of this guy and see why he got the contract that he did and why the Anaheim Ducks are so bullish on him as being a staple of this team. Well, so far in his career, he has played 148 games, has 16 goals, 44 assists, and 60 points total. Yes, he is a defenseman. Those aren't the most extreme defensive numbers, but take that into account. That's his total career in the NHL. 148 games, 60 points. If we look at just last year with Jackson LaCombe, that's 75 games played out of those 148. 14 goals last year out of his 16 career total. 44 assists, or 29 assists out of his 44 assists, and 43 points total out of his 60 points. So last year was an absolute welcome to the league breakout year for LaCombe. And the scary thing about that, if you're against LaCombe, is that isn't even his ceiling. I don't even think that was the beginning of what Jackson LaCombe is capable of. I believe he's going to be an absolute breakout star, especially this year. There's a major amount of bold predictions out there saying that he could be the team's point leader this year. Like, he has all of the ingredients for the recipe to be an absolute disaster against other teams. Like, they will be terrified of him. He's like, we're not the Carolina Hurricanes, but we have a hurricane of a player in defense when it comes to Jackson LaCombe. NHL.com is projecting LaCombe to score 52 points this season, which would make him a top 15 fantasy defenseman, which, go pick him up if you haven't already done your draft yet for your fantasy league. Get Jackson LaCombe for your defense. You're gonna want to have him. He was tied for 11th among NHL defensemen in goals last season. He ranked 7th in even strength goals with 14 goals, so 2 of them were power play goals. He's expected to be the primary power play quarterback, which will definitely benefit him in getting more points. And I think he's going to be pumping goal, or at least getting pucks through, and then having guys like Chris Kreider on the power play. And now Mikael Granlund's looking really well. I think he's going to be lighting up the lamp himself, or at least getting that first apple on a lot of these power plays this year, especially with the new Quenneville system. Looking at his potential with fantasy and just looking at points this year, NHL.com's fantasy team, they have him with at least 65 points. So definitely going to be a good number. So NHL.com itself, thinks 52 points, and the fantasy team, the guys really involved with the talking all about fantasy hockey, they're thinking at least 65 points. So there is a massive amount of people that have faith and courage, and I don't know why courage. Either way, there's a lot of happiness and excitement and a lot of people behind Jackson LaCombe becoming a major candidate in the Norris Trophy race. Not this year, probably, but in the very near future. He's definitely going to be getting his name on that list. So this is a big contract for Anaheim Ducks. And to kind of just look at where he stands among the league, I got a couple comparables for you. We'll get into that right after this. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5. And if it hits, you unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. With FanDuel, you get engaged. Unfortunately, my Red Sox got eliminated this week by the Yankees, but putting some money on that. You've got the NFL going on. Sunday's going to be exciting. Monday Night Football, NHL starting. We're almost here to opening day. It is the perfect time to get engaged with FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, now, so we get Jackson LaCombe, who finally locks down a massive contract at 8 years, $9 million annual average value, AAV, looking good, getting locked up till 2034. This is major stuff for Anaheim, and he's looking to be emerging as a top-tier defenseman. But right now, a player that is a little bit higher in the fantasy ranks over Jackson LaCombe is Evan Bouchard. Everyone knows about the Bouch bomb and the way he plays with the Edmonton Oilers. He's a great defenseman. So he's a little up there. And then you have Luke Hughes, who was kind of in the same camp as Mason McTavish. One of those question marks. Is this going to get done? What is going on? And then his contract kind of settled everything for Jackson LaCombe. I think the comparables were all there. If you look at the projections, Jackson LaCombe is a little higher on his success than Luke Hughes. But for Luke Hughes to get his contract, that basically set everything in motion to get Jackson LaCombe locked up. And I think Pat Verbeek felt extremely comfortable with what the number was at 8x9. And here we are. So let's look at kind of why Evan Bouchard and Luke Hughes are kind of comparables for Jackson LaCombe. So looking at Evan Bouchard, his fantasy rank is being a top 5 defenseman. Last year, 68 points, 26 power play points, and his shot rate obviously is elite. He's got third best among defensemen. With that slap shot, he can put pucks hot on net. He is the anchor of Edmonton's top power play unit, and he's obviously surrounded by elite scorers with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and the rest of the Edmonton Oilers. Hopefully they step up if they want to have the year they've had the last couple of years. But Evan Bouchard is going to be the man right there involved with all of that. Looking at Evan Bouchard's ceiling, he's at about a 20-plus goal ceiling, 60-plus assists, 250-plus shots in the season, and a potential number 1 overall fantasy defenseman. That is Evan Bouchard, a tried and true defensive veteran. Now, looking at Jackson LaCombe, his fantasy rank is at 18 among defensemen. So not bad. Out of all 32 teams to be the 18th top-rated defenseman among defensemen, not bad. 24 his 2025 projection is about 52 to 65 points. He's a massive breakout candidate. And if last year was not a breakout and they're saying he has more of a breakout, absolutely looking forward to seeing him lighten the lamp. And I think he is really going to succeed under the Quenneville system. He looks like he's already at home. Looking through the preseason, watching him play, he is so good at angling off guys, and he looks like he's not even breaking a sweat. He just gets back with confidence. He angles guys off really, really well. He's able to strip the puck. He's a big body against the boards, but really doesn't have to struggle, because usually by the time he's already getting that puck out, like he's gone. You know how he doesn't really have to get worried about getting hit from behind, because he's already stripped that puck and moved, or he's already sensed where that guy's coming from and gone a completely different way. And then when it comes to his breakouts, he's a one-man breakout. He's getting the puck down through the neutral zone into the offensive zone, and seeing how Quenneville likes to have his defensemen get engaged when they feel they're comfortable enough to get engaged. He's going to thrive this year, and the forwards are going to be there to support him. And I think they know if they see LaCombe streaking down, give him that space, give him the support, but expect a puck on net and to be there for the rebound. So crash that net, give him the lane. LaCombe's going to be a force behind this offense, and taking away the Cronin leash that was the last 2 years. And to see him succeed under Cronin's watch, you're going to see a lot out of Jackson LaCombe. So his role this year is definitely going to be a top pair defenseman and a power play quarterback for Anaheim. Is he going to be getting matched up with Gudis? That is the question mark for me. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be that's going to be the pairing this year as the top pair. I think that you saw a lot of magic with him working with some of the other pairs within this preseason. He could really put up with anybody, and you're going to see success out of him. So I am intrigued to see how the lineup's going to look tomorrow, Saturday, against LA, and just what Quenneville has to go with. And we're pretty much down to the last little bit of selections. Only a couple guys left to send down to San Diego. So we'll see what that opening day roster will look like. Probably by Monday's episode, we'll have a good picture of what to look forward to, and what this actual 23-man roster will look like. But anyways, going back to LaCombe, looking at his upside, he could definitely lead the Ducks in scoring this year. And having been signed to this 8-year contract and this extension, I think that it's going to clear so much up for him. Like, I don't even think he was expecting to have this come this quickly. And you even saw in the video, if you have watched it, if not, go check it out. You'll see Verbeek basically say, like, hey, glad we got this done. Now just go play hockey. Just do your thing. Have fun with it. Like, it's done. We're good. So that's going to unleash a whole new level for him as well. Then we look across the board at the New Jersey Devils signing that occurred that kind of sparked this whole thing. That's Luke Hughes, another question mark next to Mason McTavish. He finally gets signed with New Jersey, getting to play with his brother. And so looking at him, his fantasy rank is 31 among defensemen. So you can see just how much more high these guys think of Jackson LaCombe. And then his strengths, you got speed, offensive instincts, and strong puck movement. I think he's going to be a little bit more trying to engage with the offense than Jackson LaCombe. I think LaCombe is more of a not stay at home, but he's a much more sound defenseman. Excuse me, choking on myself. Luke Hughes is developing into a top 4 defenseman, but not yet on that top power play with New Jersey. And the thing with Luke Hughes, though, he does have a high ceiling, but he just hasn't quite proven to be as defensively sound or as productive as LaCombe or Evan Bouchard. So kind of a recap there. Bouchard is definitely the most reliable and productive of these three. and he's already elite, and he's probably going to be up there as the top defenseman this year, if not one of the top Norris candidates. Then LaCombe, he's this breakout star. He's coming in hot. He's got this new contract, and he's got a chance to at least leap into the top 10 of defensemen. And then looking at Luke Hughes, he's still developing, still a younger player with a lot of upside, but just a little less fantasy value right now. So that's kind of that comparables for Jackson LaCombe and where he lands in with the defensive community out there in the NHL. Now, what does this mean for Anaheim's defense? What is it going to look like? We'll get into that right after this. So now that we've got Jackson LaCombe locked up, and by we, I mean the Anaheim Ducks have this young, wonderful defenseman locked up. Everyone's been losing their mind, either as a fan or as someone who just hasn't witnessed the miracle of Jackson LaCombe. But just listening to former players talk about LaCombe, listening to Spit and Chicklets, they love Jackson LaCombe. Listen to Empty Netters, they love Jackson LaCombe. Listen to Elliot Friedman, he's big on Jackson LaCombe. There are so many of the hockey community that are just really, really excited and stoked for Jackson LaCombe and have very high praises for him and definitely have a high outlook for him. Now, taking that into Anaheim's defense and looking at the entire core, I think, one, he's going to be a massive anchor for this defense, and he's going to be pushing these guys to a whole new level of play and really launching the defense and kind of just being that staple to the back end and being that example. I know that there are veteran defensemen. There's Gudis, there's Trouba. Those guys are, big guys that have been around this league for a while, but I think LaCombe is going to be the guy setting the actual tone just by his play. I don't even think he really has to say much. I think he just shows up and does his work, and people will follow suit. So now, looking at how it's structured, I mentioned this kind of before in the first segment. I don't really know how Quenneville plans on really pairing these guys, if he's going to go with the pairs that we saw last year, or if he's going to be mixing it up. But if it does go like last year, we have LaCombe with Gudis, and you have most likely Zellweger with Trouba, maybe a Mintyukov with Helleson. That could be a look. But something that I'm kind of curious and I would like to see is a LaCombe and Helleson pairing. I felt those two really feed off each other well. I think they're both in this kind of breakout moment in their careers and have the opportunity and the ability to really be a solid defensive pairing, not only defensively, but also offensively as well. And then you've got Zellweger and Mintyukov. Like, I feel like I've heard so many different ways to pronounce Mintyukov's name this last week. I've heard Mintyukov, 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 Mintyukov. Mintyukov is how I'm saying it, and that's how I've been hearing it, and that's what I hear from the boys. But there's so many different ways to say it. But anyways, he's going to be good. I think he's going to be stepping up this year. He did get completely destroyed by Ryan Reeves on the preseason game the other night against San Jose. That was a little tough. He definitely went horizontal right into the boards. Not a good look, but he played well the rest of the night. He's going to be a solid guy. But I do think that those are the 6 defensemen we're going to be seeing for the most of the time. That's Jackson LaCombe, Drew Helleson, Olen Zellweger, Pavel Mintyukov, Jacob Trouba, and Radko Gudas. Those are the guys. It's just really depending on how they're going to pair up. That's where I'm not 100% sure how Quenneville is going to put them together. I don't know if he's going to just have like a Gudis and Mintyukov pairing, Gudis and Zellweger, or Gudis with LaCombe. I think that just looking at how their play styles are, it wouldn't be a smart idea to have Gudis and Trouba as a pairing, even though they could just go make people be terrified of turning their shoulder over or looking over their shoulder. But just because they need to have that balance of the younger speed and a little bit more heads up play. I think Gudis and Trouba are very solid players. They just need a little bit more support with the youth and the speed on that back end. And LaCombe, like I said, I think LaCombe can really set up with anyone. I think he's going to be a a a, a floating piece for the defense. It's more just who can keep up and actually stay with LaCombe is going to be the question this year. And I liked what I saw out of him and Hellison. I think Zellweger would also be a good pair for LaCombe to have out there. I don't think Mintyukov is really the guy to set up with him. I obviously it could happen, but I'm not really seeing that setup quite yet. I'm really expecting a big year out of Pavel Mintyukov. I think him and Zellweger are really going to set a new level for themselves. And after watching Zell play forward, play defense, I feel like he's done everything that they have asked of him in this preseason, and he's been playing really solid. So you're going to see him getting some good minutes this year and some good looks. So that's why maybe a little LaCombe Zellweger action is the pair that we end up with. That could be a really good, solid pair back there along the blue line. You're going to have two guys that can really move well and work together, offensively sound. You're also going to have two guys that know how to back check and just take guys off the puck really well. They're going to hound dudes behind the net. They're going to be aggressive, getting the puck out, and they're both able to break out the puck extremely well. So that's just a good pairing. But does Quenneville really want to have them together? Or is he trying to spread out the love along the defense? I definitely see LaCombe being the point leader out of this defensive group, followed closely by Olin Zellweger when it comes to at least the offensive side, and Drew Hellison will be up there as well. Mintyukov possibly has a spur this year, more on the assist column. I think more so than the goals. I think you're definitely going to see him getting engaged with the forward group, but more of getting that puck down low and kind of setting up the forwards for some scoring chances, more so than taking some rips on net. I think Zellweger's that guy that when he gets down low, he's the guy taking that shot. He's getting the extra oomph out of his rush down the ice if he does get engaged with the forward group. Same with LaCombe. LaCombe has a shot, but he seems like he's more of a guy that's going to get it down low and create havoc for more of a rebound type situation, or a nice nifty pass down low, hitting a forward in that high slot or just right in front of the goaltender, whatever it is. So expect a lot out of this defensive group. And I've been talking about it pretty much since Quenneville was announced as the coach, that you're going to see a lot of the offense build from the back end this year. That's just how Quenneville is. He's all about build from the defense forward. And with this new zone defensive structure and more of a pivot, I think you're going to see a more free flowing type of offense with this team that you're not necessarily going to just be seeing the forwards getting the offensive going. It's going to be a team effort, and I think it's going to be completely spread out throughout this team this year on the points, and you're not going to see a lot of one person having a lot of points or maybe a couple guys. I think it's going to be a unity type scoring season for this team, and it's all going to come from this back end this year. So that's what that defense is going to look like. This is kind of the look at Anaheim's back end that we can expect. Obviously, things will change as the real regular season starts, and I can actually see and give you a full rundown of how the pairings are looking and what Quenneville actually decides on. And that might change things a little bit, but I think we're in a spot the Anaheim Ducks, that is, that they can have basically any pairing that they want right now, and it's going to be fairly solid. And the forwards are going to help out a lot with that because they're going to be engaged on the defensive end of things. You could see the way they collapse in the back check, set up their grid right in front of the net, and then they start their zone from there. It's really being effective so far, and it's going to be exciting to see how they kind of just wreak havoc across the league this year. So if you really want to see what we feel like the wrecking ball will look like for Anaheim and for the rest of the NHL, I have to say, first off, thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the 2024 NHL season preview on Locked On NHL, a 6-episode series bringing you the best local insights to make you the most informed NHL fan heading into the season. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Go like and subscribe to Locked On Ducks on YouTube or wherever you listen to audio as well. And as always, I'm Kyle Carr. Be good out there.